as she does her farewell tour and transitions into her next chapter. We look forward to having Secretary Fudge back here on this show to do a look back and a look forward. But some big news coming out of the Department of Housing and Urban Development. Definitely some big shoes to fill. Moving along to Haiti, where U.S. evacuates embassy staff amid gang violence. The United States says that it has airlifted non-essential embassy staff from Haiti as the country spirals further into gang violence. The Americans have also boosted security at their mission in the capital, Port-au-Prince. It also follows attacks by gangs at the airport and police stations and in prisons this week. They're pushing for Haitian Prime Minister Ariel Henry's removal, and a 3-day state of emergency has been extended by a month. Imagine that, a 3-day state of emergency being extended by a month. It has added, a lot of instability to an already unstable situation, an untenable situation in Haiti. And on Sunday, Germany's ambassador to Haiti also left, traveling to the Dominican Republic along with other EU representatives. That's according to the German Foreign Ministry. Look, gangs have come to dominate Haiti. And the country's main port said it was suspending operations just this past Thursday due to sabotage and vandalism. Gangs in the violence-racked city stepped up their attacks when Mr. Henry left for a regional summit last week. Mr. Henry attempted to fly back to Port-au-Prince on Tuesday, but ended up in the U.S. territory of Puerto Rico instead. He could not land in the Haitian capital because its international airport was closed. Can you imagine that? International airport was closed as soldiers repelled attempts by gunmen to seize it. Civil aviation authorities in the neighboring Dominican Republic also turned their prime minister's plane around, saying that they had not been provided with the necessary flight plan. And so lots of instability in the region. We'll keep our eyes and ears open, as we know that there are plenty of leaders, learners, and listeners here that are part of the Haitian diaspora. We will be indeed doing our part to track this. Moving along, the FBI again searches California federal women's prison plagued by sexual abuse. Federal investigators today were again searching a troubled women's prison in California, seizing computers and documents in an apparent escalation of a year-long sexual abuse investigation that previously led to charges against a former warden and other employees. More than a dozen FBI agents were at the Federal Correctional Institution at Dublin. A person familiar with the matter has shared with sources that the warden, an associate warden, and captain were removed from the facility, and this person was not authorized to speak, but the FBI confirmed that agents were at the prison, which is about 21 miles east of Oakland, but declined to give details. Monday's law enforcement activity is the latest cloud over the facility in Dublin, which is in the Bay Area, not very far from where I grew up. It's just another reminder that, while folks may have earned their way into prison and may very well be serving sentences and really being held accountable for their actions, they're still human beings. And they should still be afforded a level of dignity and humanity. This is just one facility. There are plenty of facilities across the country that also, have issues of assault and violence that is rampant. And so it's encouraging to see the FBI doing something about this facility, but going in and seizing materials is one thing. Holding folks in positions of power, influence, and authority accountable is another thing. And so we'll be keeping our eye on this story as well, especially as the U.S. prison population is rapidly graying Prisons aren't built for what's coming. NPR is reporting that when Andre Gay went to state prison in Pennsylvania in 1972, he was just 16 years old, sentenced to life without parole for murder and aggravated robbery. Gay learned from the older men there, whom he called his elders. They would hold classes together every day on all kinds of topics: politics, economics, religion, law. Then he became an elder himself. There were some telltale signs of age, stiffness, and pain in his joints, and sciatica, and flagging stamina. But he felt relatively healthy, and for years he saw his reflection only in a scratched-up metal mirror. One day he caught a glimpse of himself in a real mirror. The point is, prison is a difficult environment, and people behind bars tend to age faster than people on the outside. And for that reason, geriatric in prison can mean someone as young as 50, though it varies state by state. And any way you define it, the U.S. prison population is getting grayer and fast. And so the proportion of state and federal prisoners who are 55 and older is about 5 times that it was 3 decades ago. And in 2022, that was more than 186,000 people. And so lots of reasons for us to pay attention to what is happening and not happening in our federal prisons. On a brighter note, we have a fantastic show in store for you today. I'm really excited to welcome back our friend Al Reynolds. He's co-host of TGIF on Fox Soul. He's also an entertainment correspondent, and he was at the Oscars yesterday working that red carpet. He has all of the tea on the Oscars and more. When we come forward, you're listening to A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580.
The station you turn to when you've had it up to here with cultural incompetence. KBLA Talk 1580.
At Charmin, we heard you shouldn't talk about going to the bathroom in public, so we decided to sing about it.
Roll Charmin ultra strong when you drop in the beat. It cleans way less effort on your seat. Yeah, roll it. Yeah, roll it. Drop it. Charmin flows extra strong from the road. Your butt look clean while you're sitting on the bowl. Yeah, it's all you need for that bathroom glue. Get you in and out without nothing to prove.
Charmin Ultra Strong cleans better so you can use less. Enjoy the go with Charmin.
We've got a lot to talk about.
Hi, I'm Zoe Williams, a.k.a. the voice of reason, encouraging you to join me weekdays from 7 to 9 p.m. for the world's most intriguing relationship radio roundtable. Every night, I facilitate and encourage our loyal listeners to participate in the most engaging relationship discussions you'll hear anywhere. So make it a point to rendezvous with me, Zoe Williams, the voice of reason, at 9 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Trust me, your relationships will never be the same. The VOR is on fire tonight.
Unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got your black.
Planning for spring at Lowe's means big savings on outdoor power equipment, and Lowe's knows nothing feels better than free. Buy one select Ego string trimmer, leaf blower, or mower kit. Get one select 56-volt battery free. That's up to a $299 value. Power through spring with Ego, the #1 rated brand in cordless outdoor power. Because Lowe's knows home improvement. Valid through 4/3 while supplies last. Selection varies by location.
Heard any other talk radio lately that sounds anything like this? We didn't think so. You're listening to Unapologetically Progressive. KBLA Talk 1580.
You're listening to A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. I'm Dr. Nii-Quartelai, and I'm really delighted to welcome our next guest, Al Reynolds. He is a friend of mine. He's a friend of the show. He's one of the hardest working guys in show business. Oh my goodness, you must be exhausted from covering the Oscars yesterday. And that's, of course, when you're not engaged in your day job as co-host Fox Soul or working other red carpets. Welcome back, Al.
Thank you, Doc. Thank you so much for having me. And last night was electrifying for sure. You know, we had 4 nominees that were African American, at least when it came to leading and supporting. You know, we had Coleman Domingo, we had Jeffrey Wright, we had Miss Brooks, we had Davon, Joy. It was such an incredible night. Not to mention, you know, we also had Cord Jeffries, which was the first time he's ever directed in his first Oscar. So it was a great night all around for, you know, definitely us as people of color.
So we have plenty to dig into, but let's first start off with your look. Now,
okay,
my business. Let's go through my social media, and I'm looking at all of our friends and people that we love, just sort of getting ready for the industry's biggest night, the Oscars. And I scroll past Al Reynolds' social media posts, and I see Al putting on a fit for the ages. Tell the people what you wore last night at the Oscars.
Well, you know, the Oscars is it's entertainment's biggest night, right? So you really try your best to find some part of it that you want to connect to. And for me, fashion is a way that I like connecting, right, to the entertainment industry, to the creativity, to the uniqueness. So what I decided to do is I decided to wear a kilt. And I decided to wear a kilt with socks garters as well as shirt garter. And I wore it with tails. And so you really don't usually see that combination. But for me, I felt like it really expressed my creativity, my connection to the Oscars, my connection to the biggest night in Hollywood. And I wanted it to be something different, but also very classy, right? Because the Oscars, for those that don't know, there's a dress code. And so usually, unless you're a huge star, of course, you can wear what you want to wear. But when you're attending the Oscars, they tell you that you're only allowed to wear black, and it has to be formal. So, you know, there is also a part of me, because I'm a Gemini, that doesn't follow the rules. Or I just want to extend the rules. So what I did was I wore all black, and I wore kilts instead of black slacks. And it was all the rage. When I tell you, everyone stopped me and complimented my kilt, I felt like, you know what? I've arrived.
Well, look, I'm surprised your phone hasn't been ringing with like a cocoa butter deal, because you know these were oiled down. I mean, you were ready to go.
They were ready.
But you weren't the only one that was getting attention at the Oscars. Donald Trump was roasted by Jimmy Kimmel on social media during the Oscars. Then the host read it online after former President Trump posted a scathing review of Jimmy Kimmel's performance as host of the 2024 Oscars. Kimmel read it on air during the ceremony and threw a dig at the 2024 Republican presidential frontrunner. And in the post on social media, Trump asked rhetorically if there was ever a worse host than Kimmel at the Oscars and criticized his opening monologue. You know, Kimmel has long criticized Trump. Was Kimmel right to go after the former president during the ceremony?
Oh, absolutely. You know, a lot of people felt indifferent about Kimmel's hosting. I enjoyed it. You know, there's a whole lot of drama that has been surrounding the Oscars the last 2 years. We don't want to bring up the infamous slap, but you know, when you choose the host, you want a host that Hollywood is familiar with. You want a host that Hollywood has endeared. And you also want a host that has the relationships with the people that are in the audience, so there can be that immediate connection, given the sensitivity of what's going on with the Oscars and its live show. Now, it's one of the largest watched programs in history in entertainment. And I think, you know, Donald Trump has always come for him in the way that Kimmel just crafted the response. Like, who would ever thought that he would read it live on air, right? I just thought that was kind of huge. I thought instead of waiting to take it to social media afterwards, why not use the world's largest stage to address him? And I thought it was classy, and I thought it was tactful. And I like the way that, if you're going to go out there and degrade me while I'm on air, then I'm going to use on air to talk to it and speak to it and get back at you. I mean, I like watching people in power use their power. Trump used his power to degrade. Jimmy Kimmel used his power on that national platform, watched around the world to address it. Why not? I think I would have done the exact same thing.
And also, speaking of folks really having major moments on the world's biggest stage, Billie Eilish earned the Oscar. Can you believe she's earned her second Oscar before the age of 30, marking a record in Academy Award history for the Barbie song. She also performed that at the Oscars last night. What do you make of Billie Eilish's second Oscar before 30?
Well, you know what's so interesting? It was interesting because if you know her story, when she was 12 years old, she went to a Broadway play, and when she left the Broadway play, she just dropped down and she was crying in tears because she didn't think that she would ever be good enough to size up to any of these creatives in the entertainment industry. Only now, make this very clear, Nii-Quartelai, she won in 2022 her first Oscar for the James Bond music, No Time to Die. Now, because she won for the Barbie, she's two-time youngest to win 2 times.
Yeah.
So 2-time youngest to win 2 times. So she made Oscar history at the age of 22. So, much to be said for someone like that who has, through her creative expression, connected to millions and able to get the eyes of those who also vote for the Oscars is also a huge feat. So my hat is off to Billie. I wish her the best. And it was a tearjerker in that audience listening to the echo of what was I made for? I think a lot of women could resonated with, as well as a lot of African Americans who fight some of the same marginalizing issues that women face, in the entertainment industry. And I think that for many people, there was not a dry eye in the audience.
Yeah, I mean, it's a beautiful song. And my goodness, congratulations to Billie Eilish for making Oscar history, but more importantly, making a timeless song. I have a feeling that we're going to be like 90 years old and that song is still going to hit.
I agree.
And speaking of a feeling that hits, I just got to say, big ups to Cord Jefferson. To me, he delivered one of the most memorable speeches of the evening that really met the moment. And we have a clip from that speech that we want to share with you. Take a listen.
And that this is a risk-averse industry. I get it. But $200 million movies are also a risk, and it doesn't always work out, but you take the risk anyway. And instead of making one $200 million movie, try making 20 $10 million movies or 50, right? 50 $4 million movies. Like you can. There are so many people. I just feel so much joy being here. I mean, I felt so much joy making this movie, and I want other people to experience that joy. And they are out there. I promise you. The next Martin Scorsese's out there. The next Greta's out there. Both Greta's. The next Christopher Nolan's out there. I promise you. They just want a shot, and we can give them one. And this has changed my life. Thank you all who worked on this movie for trusting a 40-year-old black guy who's never directed anything before. It has changed my life. Thank you. I love you all. Thank you so much.
So to all the 40-plus-year-old black men out there who are toiling in this industry and we're looking for a little ray of hope, a little ray of sunshine, I hope Cord Jefferson's speech gave you exactly that. When we come forward, I want to get Al Reynolds' reaction to Cord Jefferson's what I'm calling historic Oscar speech, because I think it really met the moment. In this age where we see a war on all things diversity, equity, inclusion, and we see so many of us fighting for the opportunity just to be able to compete. Nobody's saying you owe us anything. We just want the opportunity to compete. And I think Cord Jefferson met the moment with that message. But we'll hear Al Reynolds' take on that when we come forward. You're listening to A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580.
Out loud. KBLA Talk 1580.
I'm Esther Dillard, and here's the latest from the Black Information Network. President Joe Biden is urging Congress to pass the recent bipartisan border deal. While delivering remarks before the National League of Cities in Washington, Biden said the deal would save lives and bring order to the U.S.-Mexico border. The bill, negotiated by a bipartisan group of senators, has stalled as Republicans claim it doesn't go far enough to stop the flow of illegal immigration. Meantime, former President Donald Trump says a TikTok ban would only empower Facebook.
The thing I don't like is that without TikTok, you can make Facebook bigger. And I consider Facebook to be an enemy of the people.
The likely Republican presidential nominee said that on CNBC. And millions are under wind advisories and warnings on the East Coast, stretching from Maine down to western North Carolina. And that's the latest. I'm Esther Dillard from the Black Information Network and BINnews.com.
Feel plenty good by incorporating Silk into your morning routine. Silk's delicious plant-based beverages help bring a daily dose of goodness. They are rich in calcium and a good source of vitamins A and D to support the health of you and your family. Shop wherever you find groceries.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
The good news continues for the USC women's basketball program. After beating Stanford Sunday to win the Pac-12 tournament, the Trojans moved up to number 3 in this week's AP Top 25 rankings. It's the highest ranking for the program in 38 years. The Trojans will likely be one of 4 number 1 seeds in the NCAA tournament. 3 Pac-12 teams are in the top 6. Stanford is 4th, UCLA is 6th. The Lakers are 6 games over 500 for the first time since January 12, 2021. In their past 3 games, the Lakers have beaten the number 1 and number 2 teams in the Western Conference and the number 2 team in the East. NFL free agency begins today. Teams can start negotiating with players. Contracts cannot be signed until Wednesday. The Rams have about $29 million in salary cap space. The Chargers are $21 million over the cap. They need to get under the league limit by 1 p.m. on Wednesday. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
This is KBLA Talk 1580. Talk radio. That's music to your ears. We're unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580.
Hey, Californians, are you ready to make your home ownership dreams come true? The California Dream for All Shared Appreciation Loan Program might be for you. First-generation homebuyers can get down payment and closing cost assistance along with a first mortgage to help you unlock the door of your new home. Applications open in April, so talk to an approved lender to see if you're eligible. Find out more at calhfa.ca.gov/dream. Or call 877-922-5432. A message from the California Housing Finance Agency.
Sometimes we lose, sometimes we win. Sometimes we try to fit it all in. Sometimes we don't know what's in store. Sometimes we find what we're looking for. Sometimes we're rolling easy and free. Sometimes 1 and 1 makes 3. So much to love along this ride. That's why Nationwide is on your side.
Nationwide Mutual Insurance Company and Affiliates, Columbus, Ohio.
I have a secret. I use Secret Whole Body Deodorant because more than just my armpits stink.
Oh, can I use it where my bra rubs under my...
Oh, yeah.
And what about down there? You know, my...
Totally. 4 out of 5 gynecologists would recommend it. So I tried it, and now I get 72 hours of freshness from my pits to my...
Ooh, I love that it's a spray.
Me too. And it comes in sticks and creams too. Go get your Secret Whole Body Deodorant.
If you're looking for the most epic place on earth, let's start at the base of a massive waterfall. Then trek through the thick jungle. Then climb to the peak of a snowy mountaintop. Then once you get there, keep going. Because with intelligent 4x4 and 7 drive modes and a Nissan Pathfinder, the search is the real adventure.
Available feature. Intelligent 4x4 cannot prevent collisions or provide enhanced traction in all conditions. Always monitor traffic and weather conditions.
This is KBLA Talk 1580, where hate loses and love wins.
You're listening to A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. I'm Dr. Nii-Quartelai Quartey, and just so delighted to be in conversation with my friend, our friend, hot off the red carpet, Al Reynolds. You know him as co-host of TGIF on Fox Soul. He's also an entertainment correspondent. He was there in full effect at the Oscars, and we are sipping on the tea on all things Oscars. We were just playing a clip of a really moving speech delivered by Cord Jefferson for winning Best Adapted Screenplay for American Fiction last night. We just played that clip for you. Al, I want to give you a chance to respond to his remarks.
Oh, absolutely. Let me tell you something. This is the tea. I can't wait to give you all the tea surrounding Cord Jefferson. The part of the clip that you did not catch was Cord Jefferson did something that I think I would probably do if people dissed me while I was in Hollywood for all the years that he's been in Hollywood. He said he didn't want to discuss how many people actually passed on this project. So he kind of threw that out there and then he reeled it back in. But if you ever have a dream that you wish, you know, it had happened sooner, especially because he's 40, and you happen to be Black in the entertainment industry, what he said resonated with you, whether it was an age thing or whether it was a color thing. Because we know Hollywood, there are 3 main barriers in Hollywood that you always have to overcome. One is your age, because this is a very young-centric type of entertainment industry here. And then it's also the color of your skin. And also there's also a little weight shaming here in Hollywood. But he spoke on 2 of those that could really resonate with a lot of people. Now, what I thought was really interesting and was the real tea is as we all migrated into the press room to do his individual acceptance speech, he went into deeper what he meant by equity and inclusion. He went in deeper on the challenges, the daily challenges to sell Black-centric content to Hollywood. He went in deeper on the biases and the discrimination that not only actors in front of the camera receive, but also behind. And you know what, Nii-Quartelai? They cut him off. They cut him off because they felt like what he was saying was insensitive. And it was great to watch because he continued his talk anyway. But how they got him back was because there were a lot of us in the press room who had our cards raised. And my card was raised from the moment he stepped in that room, because what he said, a Black guy who has never directed, you know, who's 40 years old, you know, who's late to the game, who was always told that he wasn't going to be what he is now, which is an Oscar winner. It was interesting that we all had our cards up to ask our questions, and they only allowed 2 people to ask him questions, and none of the 2 people were people of color. It was devastating. It really showed the sentiment of the Oscars. It really showed the sentiment of how racism and everything he talked about is still a main player in the decision-making process in Hollywood. I thought, wow, I have never witnessed anything like this in my life. We just had, before he came into the press room, we had the Asian individuals who won on animation or something, and they allowed 20 questions. It was just the craziest thing you could ever see. And a hush fell over Jerusalem in that press room. And of course, you know, I moaned and groaned because I was like, my number was up. She did not call on me. I sat on the first row of the press room. So it wasn't not, you definitely saw me. You definitely passed me on purpose when it came to this question, because she knew that I was going to connect with him and ask him to expound on it. So that to me was the real tea of Oscars, the Academy Awards 2024. My hat goes off to this man, because as he closed down his speech, he could not use that platform enough to talk about the disparaging, the disparities, the inequities, the marginalization of Black entertainers, producers, directors, actors. It was just phenomenal. And it resonated with me, but obviously with the Academy, they weren't that too happy about it.
Well, I know that there are plenty of members of the Academy that listen to this show on a regular basis. And I think, you know, and this is why this show exists, to amplify the voices of people out there that are change makers, that are disrupting business as usual. And we're just so glad that you had a front row seat.
That's right.
To cover this first draft of history. I'm talking about the history that Cord Jefferson made yesterday, joining the Academy as the winner for Best Adapted Screenplay for American Fiction. But he wasn't the only one that was using that platform to say something consequential, to say something that meets the moment. The Times of Israel.
Mm-hmm.
This ain't the AP. This ain't the Washington Post. I went all the way to the Times of Israel.
Yes.
Story. And their headline this morning read, accepting Oscar, Glazer says, don't use our Jewishness and Holocaust to justify Gaza war. As widely predicted, Oppenheimer, the biopic of Jewish nuclear physicist J. Robert Oppenheimer, swept a number of categories at Sunday's Oscars, including Best Picture, in a year unusually heavy with Jewish nominees. But the most talked about Jewish moment of the night came courtesy of Jonathan Glazer, writer-director of the cerebral Holocaust drama, The Zone of Interest, who used his acceptance speech to comment on the Israel-Hamas war. Standing alongside his producers, James Wilson and Lynn Blavatnik, during his acceptance speech for Best International Feature, Glazer, who is Jewish and came to Israel on a 5-month program when he was a student at London's Jewish Free School, denounced Israel's occupation of Palestinian territory, which he said had led to, quote, dehumanization that affected both Israelis and Palestinians. He went on to say that our film shows where dehumanization leads at its worst. It shaped all of our past and present. He went on to say, right now we stand here as men who refute their Jewishness and the Holocaust being hijacked by an occupation, which has led to conflict for so many innocent people, whether the victims of October the 7th in Israel or the ongoing attack on Gaza. He added to applause and cheers. What did folks, make of that speech after he exited the stage?
Right. So, this is such a sensitive topic in Hollywood, as you can imagine. And you saw on air that he connected to a number of people in the audience. And then there was also a number of people, that were also in the audience that were, you could tell, not sure how to respond or if they wanted to be seen on camera responding. And that was also because as you came into the Adobe Center Theater, there were pro-Palestine protesters outside, and they got larger and larger and larger as the night went on. As he entered into the press room, though, I thought is where it became extremely interesting, because I think he was just in a very emotional moment, and he was still talking about innocent people killed in Gaza and Israel's war in Gaza. And what I found most interesting, Dr. Nii-Quartelai, is the attentiveness of people wanting to hear about their pain, right? And about their conflict and about the differences. And that, to me, I had to compare it to the same conversation that we just had about Cord Jefferson, where the audience in the press room were not very interested in hearing about Cord Jefferson's pain and his relationship and Black people's relationship in Hollywood. And I hate to hijack this to move the conversation to that, but I think it's warranted. I think that we have empathy in Hollywood as it relates to Jewish-centric conversations. However, and they were a marginalized group. However, when it comes to African Americans wanting to talk about how they've been marginalized, it becomes a different sentiment. And that was the rub that I had. Now, we are all compassionate. We're all loving and empathetic individuals. But my common theme that I always say is that if we're going to have it for one group, then have it for another, especially if the parallels are the same, right? You can't, for me, and I think this is where the rub is for me, you can't say, okay, I want to have empathy for this group because they're Jewish only, and I can only have empathy for them. But the same way that they have been marginalized, or we can say have been marginalized a lot of times, when it happens to a different ethnic group, why can't you have the same empathy for that? And that was the undercurrent that I felt at the Oscars as it relates to this particular conversation around Israel and Gaza and Palestinians.
I really appreciate you clarifying that. And, again, you are sharing this not as hyperbole. You're sharing this as observations. You were there in the press room as folks exited from the Oscar stage. There were a number of people that you had a chance to talk to on the red carpet. And so we appreciate, your fly on the wall perspective on what was said and how folks responded to it in the room. Before we let you go, I've got to ask you,
okay,
talking, and the streets want to know, who's going to be your new co-host on TGIF?
Well, we're announcing it tonight, so you don't have to talk any longer. If anyone would like to go to my YouTube channel, I talk about it on my YouTube channel. I talk about all the individuals that sat in that chair and which one I prefer. I do have a preference, and I guess it's no secret for those who have watched my YouTube channel. I really enjoyed T.S. Madison. T.S. Madison is an Emmy as well as a Grammy-nominated talent. We are in a very trans-centric dialogue as it relates to entertainment, and she always rises to the occasion. But there's a little firecracker that really brought a different type of content to our channel. He skews younger, and that's Armand. Armand to me is that guy that's like a lightning rod. And even though, some of his things that he say can really upset you, and it can be young and a little bit, more his age bracket or younger, it sparks discussion. And that's what is key for a show like ours. If we're going to be an alternative talk option, then we need to spark discussion across all levels, and especially within our community, because we are African American centric. And I think with him, you're going to see, or you will see, a little bit more of the disconnect, which causes the discussion, which causes us to come up with solutions that are, that work for all individuals and not just one type.
Well, our thanks to you for always doing your part to seed a bigger, deeper conversation. You like to have fun with it, but you also like for us to walk away having learned something, and we certainly have learned a lot from you today. Our thanks to Al Reynolds.
Thank you for always having me, Dr. Nii-Quartelai, and it really means a lot that you give me this opportunity to share, because, we need to share not just in a gossip round, we need to share also on these platforms like yours, which are very, informed centric readers, more educated. And I enjoy both. So this is perfect for me.
Well, we appreciate you. Please come on back again soon. Our thanks to Al Reynolds, the co-host of TGIF on Fox Soul. Tonight, they're going to announce their new co-host. We're all on the edge of our seats to figure out who that is. He's also an entertainment correspondent. I'm sure we'll see you on another red carpet soon.
Yes, sir. Hopefully the Image Awards, NAACP, is always a great one, and it's representative of us, our culture, and all of our entertainers in that space only. So, hey, let's keep our eyes and ears open, and maybe I can come back and talk about that too.
Absolutely. We'll look for you there. More when we come forward. You're listening to A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA Talk 1580 is an intervention. When we come forward, includes you. KBLA Talk 1580, turning pain into power.
Sometimes I struggle to get to sleep. My body stopped for the day, but my mind is still running. So I take ZQuil.
ZQuil, the world's #1 sleep aid brand, has a range of non-habit-forming products to fit you and your family's needs. Invest in a great night's sleep for the best you tomorrow.
I'm awake and ready to take on anything.
Better days start with ZQuil nights. Explore our products at ZQuil.com. Use as directed. Keep out of reach of children.
Did you know that feeling sluggish or weighed down could be a sign that your digestive system isn't working at its best? Taking Metamucil every day can help. Metamucil fiber powders help promote your daily digestive health using a plant-based fiber called psyllium. The gelling action of this special fiber traps and removes waste, so you can feel lighter and more energetic. Metamucil, promoting digestive health for a better you. Learn more at Metamucil.com. These statements have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. These products are not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease.
I'm going out with the girls this weekend. Nails done, outfit stunner, and my skin, I know it's going to be glowing because I glammed up my shower routine with new Olay Indulgent Moisture Body Wash. It smells so luxurious and moisturizes deep into my skin with its super rich, creamy lather that's bursting with vitamin B3. So my skin glows and my confidence grows. Try new Olay Indulgent Moisture Body Wash for glowing skin in just 14 days.
Did you know one of the best investments you can make? It's in yourself. At My Computer Career, in just a few months, you can start your new career in the high-demand, recession-resistant field of information technology. Isn't it time you invest in you and start a career in networking, cybersecurity, AI, or upskill to boost your current IT career? So get the ROI you deserve at My Computer Career, no experience necessary. Start now at mycomputercareer.edu.
Financial aid is available for qualified students, including the GI. Find a righteous rage and don't be afraid to say what you see. We're KBLA Talk 1580.
You're listening to KBLA Talk 1580, More Purple Union. I'm Dr. Nii-Quartelai Quartey, and it's time for the quiet part out loud. I don't know how many of you saw today that here in our nation's capital, Mayor Bowser signed the DC crime bill. We will be sure to have some analysis on what's in that bill that is of importance to folks here in the nation's capital, and what good ways and not so good ways that bill might be an example of what to do and what not to do to address some of the challenges around crime that are rearing their head in cities across the country. But keeping with that theme, what some people are calling a stunning turnabout. Voters and lawmakers across the U.S. are moving to reverse criminal justice reforms. That's right. Less than 4 years after George Floyd's murder sparked a mass awakening to the inequities of the criminal justice system, political leaders across the country are returning to a tough on crime approach. Remember that? In some cases, voters and lawmakers are opting to reverse reforms passed years ago. San Francisco voted on Tuesday in support of two propositions that give more power to police and require addiction treatment as a condition of welfare assistance. The DC council members also passed a package of public safety measures, including bringing back drug-free zones. And, this is not the last of it. Though the 50-year pattern of reform and restrictions may seem like we're headed back into a highly punitive policy direction. There are experts that say that isn't exactly the full picture. Not the full picture. Experts are saying that patterns like a pendulum swinging between restriction and reform starts as early as the 60s, when a move of reform led to spikes in crime in the 1970s. The 1980s brought in the crack crisis and a get tough era. Experts say that over the next 3 decades, mandatory sentencing, a boom in prison development, and harsher drug enforcement tactics led to a ballooning prison population. During this time, the Violent Crime Control and Law Enforcement Act of 1994 was signed by President Bill Clinton, which the Brennan Center for Justice considers one of the most comprehensive federal bills on crime in history, with a complicated legacy for its contributions to mass incarceration. By 2007, get this, one in every 31 adults was under the authority of the correctional system in the U.S., and the country had the highest per capita incarceration rate in the world. That's according to a 2010 congressional report. Efforts to reduce those populations had bipartisan support and can be seen by the 2018 First Step Act to improve criminal justice outcomes while keeping crime low, which was former President Donald Trump. He signed that into law. But even before that, the Pew Trust reported that more than 30 states had passed laws to reduce the prison population between 2007 and 2017, including Louisiana. And so we've got to really unpack this, because otherwise I think folks will walk away with an oversimplistic view of what is happening on criminal justice reform. There are some people that believe maybe the policies in places like DC and LA and San Francisco went too far. There are some people that believe maybe we're overcorrecting. We understand that there's a lot in the sauce here, and we want to figure out the main ingredients. And so stay tuned to a future episode where we're going to dig deeper with all the right experts on this. But before we let you go, let me finish with this. There was a USA Today op-ed that I read from a Republican, Jim Young. And the headline read, "I voted for Trump twice. Liz Cheney's book and DOJ's January 6th indictment changed my mind." I was really surprised to read that. Mr. Young said that he voted for Donald Trump, not once, but twice. He thinks of himself as a staunch conservative and registered Republican from Oklahoma. He believes in limited government, free enterprise, and traditional Christian values. He believes in personal responsibility and that government should help those who can't help themselves. He also believes that Joe Biden and his followers in Washington have been among the top 5 of the worst political leaders in the country's history. And he cites outrageous mismanagement of the southern border, historic levels of inflation, and dangerous out-of-control spending and government debt are his legacies. That's how he thinks of President Biden. After the 2020 election, he claims to have stuck his head in the sand as a citizen. He didn't want to pay much attention to the ridiculous haranguing about stolen elections and other crazy political rhetoric. And he said he had to admit he was intrigued by some of the conspiracy theories about ballot stuffing and crooked voting machines. He watched in disgust the TV coverage of the riot on the U.S. Capitol on January 6, 2021, and just shook his head, not totally surprised. Then came the House January 6th committee investigation, and more political haranguing, finger pointing, and fighting made him nauseous. He didn't want to hear it. He didn't want to see it. However, he recently read Oath and Honor, a memoir and a warning by former Representative Liz Cheney, a Republican from Wyoming. The book details her work as a senior leader in the investigation of the January 6th assault on the Capitol. And Cheney goes to great pains to be objective, factual, and fair in her descriptions of how the committee was formed and how it operated. The committee's work had him walk away thinking that Cheney was intelligent, honest, and a patriotic American. Her most impressive attributes that she is a politician for whom honoring the Constitution and the rule of law came above all else, including her political career. And all those things, reading that book, the DOJ indictment, all those things changed his mind. Imagine that. Learning of the truth, learning of the information, really going through the facts actually made a difference and changed his mind. And he notes that the ultimate big lie was that 2020 presidential election was stolen from him. He continues to spread this propaganda to today. And so he says, before you cast your vote or support Trump, please take a read at Liz Cheney's book or the committee findings or the DOJ indictment. He says the future of our society depends on it, and we could not agree with him more. Furthermore, we also want to take a moment to remind you that KBLA has released this groundbreaking results from a survey about environmental issues and the impact of pollution and climate change on our community. The poll provides unique insights into Black voter sentiment and preferences on key environmental and social justice issues. The results highlight that there's a direct connection between environmental justice, social justice, civil rights. Equally important, respondents overwhelmingly believe that pollution, climate change, and other forms of environmental harm impact Black, Latino, and low-income communities more than white, Asian, wealthy, and coastal communities. To learn more about this new survey and our historic year-long climate justice campaign, go to the KBLA 1580 website right now. At KBLA 1580, we care about the community, we care about the climate, and we thank the village that helps us organize this show each and every day. Our executive producer, Tavis Smiley, our sound engineer extraordinaire, Miles Lowe, our show producer, Robert Battles, and our podcast publishing guru, Odell Bodie. Remember, don't panic, organize. Do what you can from where you are with what you have. I'm Dr. Nii-Quartelai Quartey. You've been listening to A More Perfect Union on